When a lawyer says your mother's name and a house number in the same sentence, your heart hears it before your ears do. I sat at the end of the long conference table, hands folded, back straight, the way I used to sit in my bus driver's seat. Old habits stay with you. The room smelled of coffee and printed paper, and the air conditioner hummed against the Atlanta heat outside the windows. Across from me, Reggie scrolled through his phone with that half-smile he wears when he thinks he is the smartest man in the room. His gold watch caught the light every time he shifted his wrist. He had on a fresh blazer, open at the neck, no tie. He looked casual and comfortable, as if this was just another meeting on his busy schedule. "All right," Attorney Carter said, adjusting her glasses. "We're here to read the last will and testament of Mrs. Evelyn Brooks." My mother's name settled into the room. I felt a small pull in my chest, the same pull I felt every evening I used to park the car in front of her house and see her curtains move. I kept my eyes on the table for a second, then lifted them back to the lawyer. Reggie broke the quiet. "Let's get to it, Miss Carter," he said. "I got another closing this afternoon." I noticed the word. Closing. He had been using it a lot lately. Property this, deal that, investors here, a buyer there. Always the same pattern. Big talk, small truth. Carter looked up at him and then at me. Her eyes rested on the folder in front of her. Next to it sat the folder I brought from home. Dark blue, corners worn, papers lined up in order. I had opened and closed it 3 times in the car before I came in. "I will go through the main provisions," she said, "and then we will address any questions." She started reading. Standard phrases. Sounded cold, even though I knew the words came from my mother. She talked about personal effects, bank accounts, remaining funds. I heard my name, heard Reggie's name. Nothing surprised me yet. Then Carter turned a page. "As for the real property located at 218 Willow Park," she said, "the decedent's primary residence, which was recently sold." Recently sold. The words landed one by one. My jaw tightened for a second, then relaxed. I kept my hands flat against each other so they would not move. Reggie sat up a little straighter. I saw his shoulders puff just a bit. His smile turned into something sharper. "The proceeds from that sale," Carter continued, "and any related accounts or transfers will need to be reviewed in light of earlier instructions." She stopped there and glanced at me. It was a brief look, but I understood it. We had spoken before this day. Reggie leaned back in his chair. "The sale is already done," he said. "I handled all that before Mama passed. We can move on from that part." I turned my head and looked at him. Not long, not hard, just long enough so he had to meet my eyes. "Reggie," I said, my voice steady, "Mama told me that house was not supposed to be sold while she was still breathing." He shifted his gaze away almost immediately. "You must not remember right, big bro," he said. "Things changed. She gave me power of attorney. She signed everything." He tapped his finger against the table, fast and light. It sounded nervous to me, even though his words tried to sound relaxed. Carter cleared her throat. "Mr. Brooks," she said, "your mother left written instructions and additional notarized documents about that property that we need to review together today." She placed another folder on the table. This one had my mother's handwriting on the front. I recognized the uneven letters from across the room. I sat up a little taller. The room felt smaller, but my head felt clearer. This was the moment I had been walking toward since the day I saw that sign in front of Mama's house. I slid my own folder closer to me. Voicemails printed and transcribed. Dates circled. Copies of letters. A small USB drive taped inside the cover. I did not raise my voice. I did not point a finger. I just spoke. "Before we go any further," I said, "we need to talk about when and how that house was sold." Carter nodded slowly. "I agree," she said. "We're going to look at everything today." Reggie laughed once, short and dismissive. "This is unnecessary," he said. "I took care of Mama's business. You should be thanking me." I kept my eyes on the lawyer, not on him. I had already buried my mother. I was not about to bury my self-control on top of her. In that quiet office, with the blinds half open and the city noise just a faint murmur through the glass, I understood that this was not only about money or a house. It was about whether my mother's word meant anything in this world once she could not speak for herself. And I had come here to make sure it did. Before everything went sideways, my days had a steady rhythm to them, a rhythm I didn't truly appreciate until it broke. Most mornings, I woke up before the sun came up. Old bus driver habits stick with you even when the uniform is long gone. I'd make myself a pot of coffee, nothing fancy, just the same brand I'd been buying for 20 years. Then I'd sit by the window in my small apartment, listening to the city ease itself awake. Mama used to call around 7:30. Every day. "Morning, Calvin." "You up?" she'd say, even though she knew I was. I'd smile into the phone. "Yes, ma'am." She'd ask about my knee, complain about her mail piling up, tell me she tried a new show on TV and didn't like it. That was our morning routine, one I never missed if I could help it. After breakfast, I'd drive over to her house on Willow Park. It was a quiet street, the kind where neighbors still waved from their porches and old men cut their grass twice a week just to stay busy. Mama's house was the only one on the block with bright blue shutters, a color she painted herself after Daddy died because she said the house needed cheering up. Even after all these years, stepping through that front door always felt like walking back into childhood. The same pictures hung in the hallway, me in my graduation cap, Reggie holding the family dog, Mama smiling wide at a church picnic. When I'd come in, she'd be sitting in her recliner with her blanket across her lap. "There's my oldest," she'd say, as if that alone meant something special. To her, it did. I'd sweep the kitchen, take out the trash, look over her medications, make sure she ate something besides crackers and sodas. Some days, she'd let me cook. Other days, she'd shoo me out of the way and insist on fixing her own eggs even though her hands shook a little. Every now and then, Reggie would drop by. Always loud, always dressed sharp, new sneakers, new chain, big smile. He'd walk in like he owned the place. "Hey, Mama," he'd say, leaning over to kiss her cheek. "How you doing today?" She loved seeing him, I can't lie. He made her laugh. But whenever money came up, taxes, insurance, utilities, Mama's eyes would flick toward me. She'd lower her voice like she didn't want Reggie to hear. "Calvin," she'd whisper, "I think I need you to look at some of these papers." It wasn't that she didn't trust Reggie. She did. She just trusted me differently. One Sunday afternoon stands out clear in my mind. Mama had made a pot roast so tender it fell apart on the fork. We sat around the table, me, Mama, and Reggie, for the first time in months. Reggie bragged through the whole meal. "I'm working on this new property flip," he said. "Big payout coming." Mama nodded politely, even though she didn't understand half of what he said. "You be careful with all that," she told him. "Don't rush into things." "I know what I'm doing," he said, smiling at her like she was a kid. After dinner, I helped Mama wash dishes while Reggie stood in the living room scrolling on his phone. She leaned closer as she dried a plate. "Your brother means well," she said softly. "He just don't think things through." I didn't say anything. I just wiped my hands and listened. Mama didn't blame people, not even when she should have. A few weeks after that, she asked me to drive her to her lawyer's office. "Just want to update a few things," she said. "You know, make sure everything's clear." She brought a folder that day, thick with old documents. Birth certificates, tax bills, insurance policies, faded letters my father wrote before he passed. She had her will, neatly typed, with sticky notes marking the places she wanted to change. Most important, she had a handwritten note, dated, signed, witnessed, saying she did not want her house sold while she was alive. She had added a line in her uneven handwriting. "I want Calvin present for any decisions about my property." I remember asking her why she wanted that written down. She sighed. "Calvin. Reggie's got a good heart, but he don't have steady hands. You do. I nodded. I didn't argue. I knew she was right. That visit to the lawyer's office went smoothly. She updated her papers, signed new ones, made sure everything was clear. I walked her out to the car afterward, and she squeezed my arm. "Thank you for coming with me," she said. "I know you won't let nobody play games with my things." Back then, I thought she was just trying to prepare ahead. I didn't see it as a warning. Not yet. The tension between me and Reggie was always there under the surface. Not loud. Not ugly. Just present. Like an ache you notice only when you move a certain way. He would call Mama his queen, bring her flowers on random days, fix small things around the house only when he wanted her praise. But when bills came due or paperwork needed sorting, he disappeared. He liked being the good son in the moments that made him look good. The rest of the time? He left that to me. Still, Mama loved both of us. And I loved my brother, even with all his rough edges. We weren't perfect men, but we were her boys. But looking back, I can see the shift. The small hesitations in her voice when she talked about papers Reggie brought. The way Reggie kept saying he'd handle the house stuff as if he had been given some authority I knew she never gave. The times Mama tried to remember what she signed, rubbing her temples, saying, "Your brother said it was nothing big." At the time, I told myself she was just tired or confused. People do get forgetful with age. I didn't want to think anything bad. Not about her. Not about him. If I'm being honest, I thought our family was too grounded for something like betrayal to happen. But calm routines can hide big cracks. My days with Mama felt normal, simple, warm, familiar. I held on to that peace without realizing it was slipping. It wasn't until I saw something with my own eyes, something small, but wrong, that the feeling in my gut changed. A change I couldn't ignore anymore. The first sign that something was wrong came in a regular white envelope. No drama. No big scene. Just a piece of mail sitting crooked in Mama's old metal box. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesday was grocery day. I had taken Mama to the doctor in the morning, then we stopped by the supermarket. She liked to walk through every aisle even if she only needed 3 things. Said it made her feel normal. When we got back to the house, I carried the bags in while she checked the mail. She shuffled through the envelopes slowly and then paused. "This one looks important," she said. "Got the county name on it." She handed it to me and went inside to sit down. I opened it at the kitchen table. It was a notice about property taxes and an adjustment to the assessment, with a line that said, "Per recent inquiry from authorized representative." I frowned. Mama never called any office about the house. She worried about the stove, the medicine, the neighbors, but not about paperwork unless I brought it up. "Did you call the county about the house?" I asked, walking into the living room. She shook her head. "No. Your brother said he would ask some questions for me. Something about lowering the bill." I looked back down at the paper. There was a note saying the inquiry came from someone holding power of attorney. I did not remember any conversation about power of attorney. "When did he talk to you about that?" I asked. She squinted, thinking. "A while back. He said it was just so he could talk to folks on my behalf. You know how they make everything complicated these days. Did you sign something for that?" She hesitated. "I sign a lot of things," she said quietly. "He brought some papers one afternoon. Said it would make things easier. I didn't want to bother you with every little thing." That answer sat wrong with me. Not because of her, but because I knew my brother. He liked shortcuts. Power of attorney is not a small thing. I folded the letter and stuck it in my pocket. "I'm going to hold on to this, Mama," I said. "Just so I can keep track." She nodded. "All right, baby. You know I trust you." That night, I went home and pulled out the folder I kept with copies of her important papers. I did not see any power of attorney form in there. No new notarized pages. Nothing that matched what the county letter suggested. The next clue came a few weeks later. I stopped by one afternoon unannounced. I had finished an appointment early and thought I'd surprise Mama with some of her favorite cookies from the bakery. Her door was unlocked, like always. As I stepped in, I heard voices from the dining room. Reggie's voice and another man's voice I did not recognize. I set the cookies down quietly and moved closer. The dining room door was half open. "This is the signature line here," the other man said. "And initial here, here, and here." Reggie's voice sounded smooth and fast. "Just sign where I showed you, Mama. It's a standard refinance. We're just cleaning up the paperwork so you don't have to worry about bills." I saw them through the gap. Mama sat at the table with a pen in her hand, looking tired. A stack of papers rested in front of her. The man across from her wore a shirt and tie. A notary stamp sat next to his briefcase. Something in me tightened. I stepped into the room. "What's going on?" I asked. Reggie turned quickly, forcing a smile. "Hey, big bro. Just helping Mama with some insurance updates and a little refinance. Nothing serious." I looked at the papers. There were lines about lien holder, transfer, borrower, and a number that looked much bigger than any bill Mama owed. Mama glanced up at me. "Reggie said this will help lower my monthly costs," she said. "I don't want nobody burdened with me." "Did you show these to Attorney Carter?" I asked, keeping my tone even. Reggie laughed lightly. "We don't need to bother her with everything," he said. "This is simple, man. I already talked to the lender. It's basically done." I picked up one page and read just the top. Something about authorization to encumber property. "Calvin," the notary said, "your mother is competent and willing. I've checked her ID and explained the basic nature of the documents. She has the right to sign." I didn't argue with the stranger. I looked at my brother. "Why didn't you call me before setting this up?" Reggie's smile tightened. "Because you always want to overcomplicate things," he said. "Mama needs things handled quick. I'm just trying to help." Mama's hand shook slightly as she signed the next line. I took a breath. I did not want to scare her or make her feel cornered. "Mama, if you want to stop and read, we can take these to Carter," I said softly. "There's no rush." She looked from me to Reggie. He raised his eyebrows, like he was offended. "Calvin, don't start," he said. "We already went over this." I saw something in her eyes, confusion mixed with trust. She had already mentally committed. She wanted peace, not conflict. "It's all right," she said. "I just want things taken care of. I'm tired of papers. I trust my boys." That sentence hurt more than I let show. I stepped back and let the man finish his work. They wrapped up, the notary packed his things and left. After he was gone, I walked out to the porch for some air. Reggie followed me. "You don't have to treat me like some crook," he said quietly. "I'm handling business." I looked him straight in the face. "Then you should have no problem with me seeing every page you put in front of her," I said. He shrugged. "You saw it," he said. "It's done now." He walked past me to his car and drove off. That night, I could not sleep right. I kept seeing Mama's hand shaking over those papers. The third clue came from her own voice. As her health started to slip, she called a little more often. Some calls were clear, some were rambling. But one voicemail stayed with me. It came on a Saturday evening when I was in the shower. I saw the missed call later and listened while I sat on the edge of my bed. "Hey, Calvin," she said. Her voice sounded thin. "Your brother came by again today with more of them papers. I signed some things, but I told him I didn't want my house sold while I'm still here. I told him that. I told him I only agreed if you and Tanya agree too. I just wanted you to know that. Call me when you get this, baby." I replayed that message 3 times. She was clear. Not confused. Not unsure. She remembered what she told him. I saved the voicemail and backed it up. Then I called her. Mama, what did he bring you to sign? I asked. Oh, just more house stuff, she said. He said the bank needed it. I told him you and Tanya have to look at it. I ain't letting nobody just take my house. I know you won't let that happen. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. When he comes with anything else, you tell him to wait for me, I said. Don't sign anything else without me there. You hear me? She sighed. I hear you, she said. I'm just tired of all this. Over the next few weeks, envelopes started coming with strange logos and addresses. Some addressed to estate planning, some to mortgage services. A few had Reggie's name listed as authorized contact. I called him one evening. Reggie, what exactly are you doing with Mama's house? I asked. He sounded irritated. I already told you, he said. I'm just restructuring some stuff, making things smoother. When it all comes together, you'll see. We'll both benefit. Are you putting any of your own money in? There was a pause. I'm putting in my time, he said. You think the deals I'm setting up are free? Are you planning to sell the house? He laughed, but it did not sound natural. Why are you always thinking negative, he said. You worry too much. He ended the call soon after. I wrote down the date of that conversation and added it to my folder. None of it was proof yet. It was all pieces, papers, comments, expressions. But the pattern was forming. Mail I had not seen before. Documents I had not been told about. A power of attorney I never knew existed. A phone call from my mother where she felt the need to tell me she did not want the house sold while she was living. I did not shout. I did not accuse him of anything directly. But I started collecting. Every letter. Every voicemail. Every date I could remember. I did it quietly, because I knew something my brother had not learned yet. When you play with an old woman's home, you are not just moving property around. You are touching everything that gave her life meaning. And if you are wrong, there will be a day when those choices come back to your chair, in a room where your words are not the only ones that matter. I did not know exactly how that day would look yet. But I knew it was coming. I didn't find out the truth in some big loud moment. It came quietly, like most disappointments do. One piece at a time, until the picture finally made sense. Mama passed early on a rainy Thursday morning. I was there in the room. Reggie wasn't. He said he had a meeting across town, but he'd swing by later. She took her last breath with my hand wrapped around hers. I whispered that she wasn't alone. That was the only gift I could give her. After she was gone, everything moved slow and fast at the same time. Phone calls. Arrangements. Relatives showing up with casseroles nobody touched. My daughter, Tanya, helped as much as I let her. Reggie showed up 2 hours later acting devastated, but grief hits different when you treat someone like a responsibility instead of a parent. We met at Mama's house the next day to gather personal things, sort pictures, talk about the funeral. When I turned onto Willow Park, my foot froze on the brake. A for sale sign stood in Mama's yard. Bold. Fresh. Red and white. And taped across it, sold. My heart thumped once, hard. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe some agent put the sign on the wrong lawn. But the address on the little panel at the bottom? 218 Willow Park. My mother's house. I parked and walked slowly toward the sign, staring at the word sold. It looked like someone slapped me without lifting a hand. Reggie's car was already in the driveway. I found him inside the house, in the kitchen, trash bags open, drawers half empty. He was pulling out Mama's old cookbooks, ones she never let anybody touch, and tossing them into a pile like they were junk mail. What's going on here? I asked. My voice stayed low. Even. He didn't turn around. Just cleaning up. Buyer wants the place cleared fast. I stepped closer, feeling my pulse stomp at my neck. What buyer? He finally turned around. The one who closed on the house last week, he said, like it was something I should have already known. I told you I was handling things. I stared at him. You sold Mama's house? He shrugged. Technically, she sold it. I just took care of the paperwork. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, just a quiet understanding that something irreversible had happened. Reggie, I said, Mama didn't want her house sold while she was alive. He threw his hands up. She didn't know what she wanted. She was confused most days. Somebody had to make decisions. She was clear with me, I said. More than once. He scoffed. You always think you know everything. You think just because you sat with her watching game shows you were the chosen one? I'm the one who got things done. I looked around the kitchen. The potted plant Mama kept on the table was gone. Several of her framed photos were gone. The curtains were half taken down. You already started clearing her things? I asked quietly. He didn't hear the pain in my voice. Or maybe he did, and he didn't care. The contract required it, he said. Closing happened 2 days before she passed. Timing sucks, but business is business. 2 days before she passed. My hand tightened on the counter. I took a slow breath. Show me the paperwork. He stiffened. What for? Because you said she signed it, I replied. And I want to see what exactly she signed. He grabbed a folder off the counter and shoved it at me. There. Read it. I handled everything legally. I looked through the pages. Power of attorney, signed 3 months earlier. Transfer authorization. Deed transfer. Notary stamp. Buyer information. Closing statement. The signatures looked like Mama's, but not steady. Not like the ones I saw on her medical forms. Not like the ones she signed with Carter present. These documents, I said slowly, they don't match the conditions she set with her lawyer. Reggie stepped back. What conditions? She didn't leave any conditions about selling the house. That told me everything I needed to know. He never looked through her real documents. He never asked the lawyer. He just pushed whatever he wanted under her nose and let her trust do the rest. She did leave conditions, I said. Written. Signed. Notarized. And witnessed. His jaw twitched. Well, I never saw any of that. You didn't want to look, I said. You wanted control. For the first time, his confidence flickered. Look, he said, lowering his voice. You got your way for years, man. You were the hero son. Mama bragged about you to everybody. I handled the hard stuff. The ugly stuff. The bills. The taxes. The money. That house wasn't yours to sell. I had power of attorney, he snapped. She gave it to me. I closed the folder. I want the originals, I said. Not copies. Not scans. The originals. He laughed bitterly. They're with the title company now. You're late. You can't undo what's already done. You think you can just walk in here and take over because Mama liked your quiet act? He turned away from me. Look, man, he said with his back turned, I'm not arguing about this. The house is sold. The money's already moving. It's too late. I didn't respond. I just looked around the house again, seeing it differently now. Not as a home. As a crime scene made of paperwork and pretend good intentions. That night, I went home, pulled out my mother's folder from my file cabinet, and spread every document across my kitchen table. I listened to all her voicemails again, the one where she mentioned papers, the one where she said she didn't want her house sold, the one where she told me she only agreed if I approved. Then I drove to Attorney Carter's office first thing in the morning. I didn't call ahead. I walked in and sat down in her lobby, waiting until she was free. When she finally called me in, I placed a stack of documents on her desk. "Something happened," I said. "And I need you to tell me if what he did can be undone." She flipped through the papers with a practiced eye. Her forehead tightened. She kept comparing signatures from old forms to the ones Reggie had put in front of Mama. "These signatures look rushed," she said. "Some look inconsistent. Is what he did legal?" I asked. She hesitated. "Power of attorney can be abused," she said. "If he used it to act against her stated wishes, or if she did not understand what she was signing, then we have a case." She opened a drawer and pulled out a file with Mama's name on it. Inside were the documents from the visit I took her to months earlier. Her notarized letter, dated and witnessed. Her handwritten note about the house not being sold while she was alive. The updated will referencing that condition. "Calvin," Carter said, looking at me, "your mother put her wishes on record. Clearly. So the sale may be challenged," she finished. "And if the court finds abuse, the proceeds can be frozen." I exhaled slowly. "What do we need?" "A timeline," she said. "Every clue, every voicemail, every suspicious interaction. We need to show a pattern. And we need to present everything at the will reading. With witnesses." "You think that's the right place?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Let him sit in a room where he can't talk his way out of it." I nodded. Over the next week, Tanya helped me organize everything into a clean packet. Dates. Voicemails. Photos of the signed yard sign. Copies of the notarized instructions. And every piece of mail that didn't look right. The more we laid out, the clearer the picture became. Reggie didn't accidentally cross a line. He walked right over it. With intention. The betrayal hit me in waves, quiet ones. The kind you don't yell about. The kind that sink into your bones. Not because of the house itself, but because Mama trusted him. A trust he used like a key. By the time the day of the will reading arrived, I wasn't angry. I was just steady. Steady enough to walk into that conference room with a full heart, a clear head, and Mama's truth sitting in my folder like a quiet flame. I didn't come to embarrass my brother. I didn't come to scream or fight. I came so my mother's wishes would not vanish behind someone else's ambition. And I knew, deep down, that the moment the right paper hit the table, his whole story would split open. When you reach my age, you learn that reacting fast isn't always reacting smart. I wasn't going to fix anything by storming into Reggie's condo or shouting in a parking lot. Mama didn't raise me that way. She raised me to think first, talk second, and let the truth stand taller than my temper. So that night after meeting with Attorney Carter, I didn't touch the folder on my kitchen table. I didn't replay the voicemails, even though they echoed in my head anyway. I didn't call Reggie. I sat quietly. Lights off. TV off. Just me and the hum of the fridge. Grief sat on one side of me. Betrayal sat on the other. But under all that, something calmer took shape, purpose. I had two responsibilities left. Honor my mother's voice. And protect her legacy from the one person who thought he could rewrite it. The next morning, I called Tanya. "Baby, can you come by after work? I need help putting something together." She knew the tone. She arrived at my apartment with 2 notebooks, a laptop, and a bag of takeout. She hugged me before saying anything else. "I'm here," she said. We sat at the small table in my kitchen. I spread out everything: letters, notices, printed voicemails, dates scribbled on sticky notes, copies of notarized documents. It looked like a puzzle dumped out without a picture on the box. Tanya scanned the table, then looked at me. "Are you sure you're ready to go through all this?" "I don't have a choice," I said. She nodded and opened her laptop. "All right. Start at the beginning. Tell me everything in order." So I did. Every clue. Every feeling. Every moment something felt off. Every time Mama hesitated around paperwork. Every envelope that didn't look familiar. Every time Reggie said, "I got it handled," but never explained how. For hours, we pieced together a timeline. The afternoon with the notary. The county letter. The voicemail. The refinance papers. The sale date. The closing date. When we finished, Tanya leaned back and exhaled slowly. "This is bad," she said. "Yes," I replied. "It is." "Do you think he knew what he was doing?" she asked carefully. I stared at the stack of documents. "He knew exactly what he was doing," I said. I wasn't saying it out of anger. I was saying it because the facts lined up too neatly. The next day, we brought everything to Carter's office. She looked through the timeline, tapping her pen on the table. "This is thorough," she said. "This gives us leverage." "I don't want leverage," I said. "I want the truth out." "And it will come out," she replied. "But we need to present it the right way. No shouting match. No accusations. Just facts." That's when she showed me something I didn't know existed. Weeks before Mama signed anything with Reggie, she had recorded a short statement in Carter's office. She sat in front of the camera, hair combed back, glasses slightly crooked, speaking slowly but clearly. "My house stays in the family," she said. "Not sold while I'm alive. Not transferred without my oldest son's involvement. Reggie helps with errands, but Calvin handles the big decisions. That's how I want it." My throat tightened hearing her voice. I hadn't heard her say my name since she passed. Carter paused the video. "We will use this," she said gently. "But only at the right time." I swallowed hard and nodded. "Whatever honors her," I said. From that point on, everything became preparation. Clean, focused, deliberate preparation. Carter organized the documents in 3 sections. Section 1, Mama's clear stated intent. Her notarized documents. Her recorded video. Her handwritten note. Section 2, evidence of confusion and coercion. The rushed signatures. The refinance papers. The stack of unexplained mail. The voicemail where she said she didn't want the house sold. Section 3, proof of misuse of power of attorney. The county letter. The sale timeline. The closing date. The absence of Calvin's involvement. I watched her build the case, piece by piece, turning my brother's slickness into his own trap. "You can confront him privately if you want," she said at one point. "No," I said. "He needs to face this in the same place where he planned to act bold, in front of witnesses." I meant it. If Reggie wanted attention and recognition for handling things, then he would get exactly that, just not the kind he expected. Tanya looked at me while Carter made copies. "Daddy, are you sure you're okay doing this?" I nodded once. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's responsibility." She put her hand on mine. "I'm proud of you," she said. The night before the will reading, I took the blue folder from my table and placed everything in order. I slid Mama's voicemail transcript into the front pocket. I tucked a USB drive inside an envelope, one with her video statement. I placed the county notice in the middle, along with the documents Reggie had tossed at me in the kitchen. Then I closed the folder, running my hand over the worn cover. "All right, Mama," I whispered into the quiet. "I'm ready." On the morning of the reading, I dressed carefully. Not flashy, just respectful. Dark suit. Pressed shirt. Shined shoes. I tied the same navy blue tie I wore to her funeral. When I stepped into Carter's office building, the air conditioning hit my face. I saw Reggie through the glass door before I walked in. He was laughing on the phone, leaning back in a lobby chair. He looked relaxed, confident, his leg bouncing impatiently. He didn't see me yet. I stood there for a second, watching him. This man grew up in the same house I did. He ate the same meals, heard the same prayers, slept under the same roof. But somewhere along the way, he decided shortcuts were easier than character. When he noticed me, he grinned. "There he is," he said. "Ready to finally wrap this whole thing up?" I didn't smile back. Yes, I said simply. We followed Carter into the conference room. I took my seat at the end of the table. Reggie sat across, stretching his arms like he was settling into a movie. You can start whenever, he told the lawyer. I got a busy day. I folded my hands, placed the blue folder beside me, and let my breathing settle. Carter began with simple introductions. Then the formal reading. Then the part about personal effects. Reggie nodded along, half listening. Then she turned the page and said, As for the property at 218 Willow Park. Reggie straightened. Like I told you, he jumped in, the house is already sold, so. Carter lifted her hand. Mr. Brooks, I need to present all relevant documents before we discuss the sale. She opened her binder, revealing the notarized letter on top. My mother's handwriting stared back at both of us. Reggie's jaw tightened. What is that? He asked. Carter read aloud. My house is not to be sold while I am alive. Silence dropped into the room like a weight. I didn't look at Reggie. Not yet. Carter continued. And no transfer of ownership or authority is valid unless my oldest son, Calvin Brooks, is present for the decision. My heart thumped once. Reggie's foot stopped bouncing. Then Carter lifted the second document. The video statement. The USB drive. This is your mother speaking on record, she said. Reggie swallowed. I don't think she understood what she was signing, he stammered. Carter reached for another sheet. The voicemail transcript. The one where Mama said she did not want the house sold, and only agreed if I approved. Reggie's face lost its confidence. His hands twitched. I lifted my folder calmly and placed it on the table. Miss Carter, I said quietly, I believe this is the right time to add the rest. She nodded. Yes, Calvin. Go ahead. I opened the folder and slid the documents forward. Page after page. Evidence laid bare. In full view. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't point. I just let the truth sit between us. And as I did, I watched the realization settle into my brother's face. He had played the game thinking Mama's voice was gone forever. But her voice was right here, louder than any excuse he could come up with. This was the beginning of his unraveling. And I didn't have to say a single angry word. When you sit in a room where truth is finally heavier than excuses, you can feel the shift before anyone speaks. That's what happened the moment I slid my folder across the table. Reggie looked at the papers like they were written in a language he didn't understand. His face kept changing, confidence draining into confusion, then into something that looked like fear, though he tried hard to hide it. Attorney Carter remained steady. She had seen families break apart in rooms like this before. She knew exactly how to guide the moment. Mr. Brooks, she said calmly, we need to address the conflict between your mother's documented wishes and the actions you took using the power of attorney. Reggie opened his mouth, closed it, then leaned back in his chair. I didn't do anything wrong, he muttered. She wanted things easier. She told me to handle the paperwork. Carter tapped a page. This letter, signed and notarized, says otherwise. It states that the property is not to be sold while she is alive. It also states that your brother's presence was required for any final decisions. That letter's old, he snapped, his voice rising. Things changed. She told me. Carter lifted another document. The updated will references this exact condition, she said. It was never revoked. Not verbally. Not legally. Reggie's eyes darted between the papers. She didn't know what she was saying. She was getting forgetful. And yet, Carter replied, her tone still even, you used a signature from a day when she was apparently clear enough to grant you full authority over her property. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Reggie's jaw clenched. Look, I didn't force her. She trusted me. I just did what needed to be done. Did what needed to be done for who? I asked quietly. Reggie finally looked at me, really looked. For the first time, there was no swagger behind his eyes. You don't understand the pressure I was under, he said. I had debts. Opportunities. I needed a boost. And she. I stopped him with a small shake of my head. This wasn't about pressure. This was about choice. His mouth tightened. You were her favorite, Calvin. You always were. You got all the love. I got the scraps. I deserved something for everything I did. I breathed in slowly. Selling Mama's house wasn't something, I said. It was everything. Before he could respond, Carter reached for the USB drive. This next part is important, she said. Your mother made a recorded statement regarding her intentions. Reggie's eyes widened. No, hold on, why do we need to watch that? Because, Carter replied, intent matters. And the court will consider it. She pressed play. Mama appeared on the screen. Hair combed back. Eyes steady. Voice soft but firm. My house stays in the family, she said. My boys can have it after I pass, but not before. And I want Calvin involved in anything that happens with it. Her image froze on that last word. Reggie stared at the screen like it was a ghost. A ghost reminding him who she truly trusted. When the video ended, the room stayed quiet. No one moved. No one breathed loud. Finally, Carter spoke, her voice gentle but unshakable. Based on the documentation and testimony, the sale violates your mother's legally stated intent. Therefore, I've already filed for an emergency hold on the proceeds. Reggie jerked forward. You what? She didn't flinch. The funds from the sale are frozen. The buyer has been notified of a pending investigation. The court will determine whether power of attorney was misused. Reggie's entire posture collapsed into the chair. You can't do that, he whispered. I can, Carter said. And I did. I watched him break, piece by piece. Not with satisfaction. Not with vengeance. Just with understanding. This was the cost of his decisions. Not my punishment, life's. He covered his face with his hands. I didn't think she'd go this far, he said into his palms. I didn't think anybody would check. I spoke softly. That was your mistake, Reggie. You thought no one loved her enough to look closer. His hands dropped, eyes red. I wasn't trying to hurt her, he said. I swear. Carter closed her binder. Intention will matter in court, she said. But so will evidence. Reggie looked at me, searching for something. Maybe mercy. Maybe a way out. Cal, he whispered. We're brothers, man. I nodded slowly. We are, I said. But being brothers doesn't mean I protect you from what you did. It means I protect Mama from what you did. He looked away. When the meeting ended, Reggie didn't rush out. He didn't brag or joke. He stood up slowly, hands trembling slightly, and walked toward the door like a man unsure of his own legs. Right before he left, he turned back to me. So that's it, he asked. You're just gonna let them drag me through all this? I met his eyes. You dragged yourself, I said. He blinked hard, nodded once, and stepped out of the room. After he left, Carter looked at me. You handled that with dignity, she said. I exhaled, feeling the weight in my chest shift slightly. I didn't want him destroyed, I said quietly. I just wanted Mama respected. And she will be, Carter replied. The court will see to it. I gathered my folder, tucking everything back into place. Tanya waited for me in the lobby. When she saw my face, she stood and hugged me tight. You did right by her, Daddy, she said into my shoulder. I nodded, but didn't speak. Some victories don't feel like victories. They feel like honesty. And honesty can be heavy. As we walked out into the afternoon sun, I knew the hardest part was behind me. But the part where truth settled into place, where justice finally started its work, was just beginning. The truth had spoken. In a room where lies couldn't hide. When you spend months holding tension in your chest, waiting for the truth to land, the quiet that comes after justice is almost strange. Not loud. Not triumphant. Just steady. Clean. Honest. That's how the months after the will reading felt. Not long after that day, the court reviewed everything: Mama's notarized letter, the recorded video, the voicemail, the inconsistencies in Reggie's paperwork, the timing of the sale. They didn't take long to see what we already knew. The judge ruled that the power of attorney had been used in ways that went directly against Mama's stated wishes. The sale was invalid. The buyer was compensated through the frozen funds. And the house on Willow Park returned to the estate, where Mama meant it to be. Reggie wasn't charged criminally. The court believed Mama signed some papers willingly, and they took her confusion into account. But he was held financially responsible for damages, penalties, and legal costs. That alone hit him harder than any jail cell would have. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just let the ruling sit in my heart the way Mama would have wanted, quietly and respectfully. The first time I walked back into her house after the ruling, it felt different. Still empty. Still carrying her warmth in the walls. But this time it wasn't stolen. It wasn't taken under a lie. It was home again. I stood in the living room, looking at the spot where her recliner used to sit, imagining her small frame wrapped in that old blanket. I closed my eyes and breathed deep, letting myself feel the memory instead of fighting it. Tanya stepped up beside me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yes," I said. And I meant it. It feels right. Not easy, but right. Together we spent the afternoon sorting through her belongings slowly, not rushing anything, taking time to honor each piece. I found her recipe cards, some stained with gravy, some faded from age. I found her church hat collection. Her handwritten notes tucked between book pages. Each item held a story. A part of her. When we finished organizing, Tanya asked a question I hadn't fully thought about. "What do you want to do with the house now?" I looked around. "I don't want to live here," I said softly. "Too many memories." She nodded. "Then maybe use it the way she would have," she said. "Keep it in the family. Keep it steady." So that's what we did. We made the house a family trust, something Mama had always talked about but never got around to setting up. A place where grandkids can stay if they fall on hard times. A place where holidays can still happen. A place where her legacy isn't something someone can flip or sell for quick cash. I hired a handyman to fix the things Mama always said she would get to later. Painted the shutters the same bright blue she loved. Replanted her rose bush by the porch. Every choice felt like a stitch, slowly sewing up a tear someone else had made. As for Reggie, he didn't show his face much after the judgment. Pride can be louder than apology. And guilt can be heavier than anger. One day, months later, he called me. I let it ring twice before answering. "Cal," he said quietly. His voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Yeah," I said. "I messed everything up," he said. No excuses. No fast talk. Just the truth. "I know you didn't do what you did to hurt me. You did it to protect her." I let a breath out. "That's right." A silence hung between us, heavy, but not hostile. "I'm trying to get things straight," he said. "Working steady now. Paying back what I owe. I just wanted you to know." "You should be telling Mama that," I said softly. "I know," he whispered. "We didn't fix everything with that call. We didn't become best friends again. Sometimes healing just means the bleeding stops." And that was enough. Weeks later, Tanya invited me over for Sunday dinner. We cooked Mama's recipes: fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread. For the first time in a long while, my heart didn't feel heavy when I sat down at the table. Grief was still there, but gentle. Quiet. like a hand resting on my shoulder instead of a weight on my chest. I realized something important as the evening sun shone through her window. Justice doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it feels like clarity. I hadn't destroyed my brother. I hadn't tried to. I simply refused to let my mother's life be rewritten by convenience or greed. I could live with that. And for the first time since she passed, I slept through the night without waking up to think about what I should have done. I had done it. Not perfectly. Not painlessly. But honorably. Just the way Mama taught me. There's a moment, after all the dust settles, when you finally sit alone with the truth and ask yourself what it all meant. For me, that moment came a few weeks after everything was resolved. I sat on Mama's old porch steps at dusk, watching the streetlights blink on one by one, listening to the quiet she left behind. I realized something then, something I want to share with you. Family isn't defined by blood alone. Family is defined by who protects your name when you can't speak anymore. My brother and I grew up under the same roof, ate the same meals, listened to the same Sunday sermons. But somewhere along the way, he chose shortcuts over character, and he thought nobody would notice once Mama was gone. But here's the truth. People who do wrong count on silence. People who honor their loved ones count on patience. In the end, silence protects nobody. Patience protects the truth. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't swing a punch. I didn't try to ruin my brother. He did enough of that on his own. All I did was put the truth where everyone could see it. And sometimes, that's the strongest kind of justice a man can deliver. So let me ask you this, before you go. Have you ever seen money, property, or inheritance tear a family apart? And if you were in my shoes, would you have stayed calm, or would you have confronted things sooner? Tell me in the comments. I read every story y'all share with me. And if my mother's story, our story, spoke to you today, then subscribe. Because I've lived a long life, and I've got more truths to tell.